I probably know what are you thinking. This game is too old school, probably badly aged, so why I'm playing it? Because it is an important piece of video gaming history and I wanted to experience it. And I had to tell you, I'm not regretted playing it. Before the Command & Conquer series and before Warcraft, there was Dune 2, the building of a dynasty. This game didn't just introduce players to the universe of Arrakis, it laid out the foundation for what we know today as real-time strategy games. As I'm a big fan of the genre, and I never played Dune 2, only very briefly as I was hooked on Command & Conquer back in my days in 1997 when I got my first PC. One of my friends had Dune 2 on a free 3.5-inch discs, and whenever he had a chance to go onto the computer lab in school, he installed and played the game. I was curious about this game for a few reasons, especially as this was one of the very first true real-time strategy game, so I decided to give it a try to see how it holds up nowadays. Let me give you the short answer. It is surprisingly well, despite it has been released 33 years ago in 1992. But let's see the details of this game as we dive into its history, its flaws, and what it makes it worth revisiting even today. My name is Mr. Zosta, welcome on my channel where I review the best classic games. Released by Westwood Studios in 1992, Dune 2 is regarded as one of the first real-time strategy games. While it wasn't the very first, it was Herzog 2. Have you noted my perfect German pronunciation? But I was not really interested in that game, as in my opinion, Dune 2 was the first real RTS strategy game, as it is laid out the foundations of the genre, resource gathering, base building, and real-time unit control. Dune 2 was inspired by the iconic sci-fi universe created by Frank Herbert. I had not read any Dune books or seen the movies, all I knew that there is a massive sand planet with spice and sandworms and 3 houses who fight for the spice. But I was interested in the story and curious how much of the lore is included in the game.
The house that produces the most spice will control Dune. There are no set territories and no rules of engagement.
So, as the story goes, the governor gave permission for the 3 houses, which are the noble Atreides, the ruthless Harkonnen, or the sneaky Ordos, to fight for Dune and decide who is going to rule the spice. Each faction brought its own unique units and strategies to the table. This was revolutionary for its time. Personally, I love this story as I was curious how it will fold out throughout the game. Alright, let's start with the nitty-gritty. Let's get over what has not aged well, so we can talk about the good things in Dune 2. While Dune 2 was ahead of its time, playing it today can be a bit of a challenge. I'm not saying that it is bad or frustrating, challenging is the proper word. The interface, for instance, feels incredibly dated. There is no group selection using hotkeys, and managing large armies can be frustrating as you have to control units one by one. You cannot select multiple units at the same time. Also, once you selected a unit, if you click on the map or on a unit, nothing will happen. You have to select your desired command from the sidebar, but it is easier to just use the keyboard for this. The good news is that you can get used to this very quickly, and it is not that bothering anymore. I heard that people complained about stuck units on the terrain or slow response times, but I experienced stuck units a few times. It was noticeable, but not a game-breaking bug. What I also noticed is that the game's pacing can feel slow even on the fastest option. Resource collection and base building can take a lot of time, especially if you are used to very fast-paced RTS games where you constantly monitor your action per minute rate, use macros and stuff. If you are used to those games, you have to change your mindset and really slow down. I'm not saying that you are going to have time to watch a movie while playing Dune 2, as on the later stages things will be quite busy, and you have to constantly give orders, but the game is definitely slower than modern RTS games. What bothered me mostly while playing Dune 2 was the scrolling. In most of the RTS games, when you move the cursor to the edge of the screen, the map scrolls. Here, you have to move the cursor to the edge of the map, not onto the edge of the screen. This was very difficult for me to get used to it, so I just used the arrow keys and I was clicking on the minimap to navigate. A small thing, but you cannot sell your buildings. This was not caused issues for me, but I noticed it when I needed some extra funds. But despite these flaws which I mentioned, Dune 2 has aged surprisingly well in many ways. First, let's talk about the visuals. The pixel art graphics have a certain charm that's timeless. 10-15 years ago these graphics would considered bad, but the comeback and popularity of pixel art nowadays changed a lot in this regard. The detailed and animated buildings and units in the menu, there's a lot of love and attention put into this game's design. The game's atmosphere is also good. The soundtrack, while simple MIDI music, it is good and matches the vibe of the sandy planet. What was surprising for me that there is a digitalized voice announcing different events in the game. There were a few surprising announcements, like when the narrator tells you that an attack is coming from the south of your base. The general gameplay of building your base, managing resources, and crushing your enemies remains satisfying. It is easy to see why this game was a huge success back in 1992. I also noted a few things which were surprisingly positive in the game. First of all, the retreat option, which sends your unit back to your base. Very quick and efficient way to save a badly damaged unit. The units are also guarding an area when they are stationary. This is very useful, however someone could argue that it is not good that a unit will attack randomly passing by enemies. A small but useful thing in the game is a detailed description of each house and each unit and building in the game, which can be useful when you are planning your strategy. One of the most iconic parts of Dune 2 is the unique structures and units. For example, I really like the concept of carry-over ships. Very useful and very handy units which will carry your harvester, lift off your damaged units from the battlefield and take them to repair. There are very basic units from the nimble trikes to the massive devastator, all feel these things as serve specific roles on the battlefield. Each house also has its own super weapon. The Atreides have the powerful sonic tank, while the Harkonnen wield the devastating Death Head missile, which is a real pain in the ass. When it has been first launched against my base and half of it has been destroyed, I was pissed. This variety of units makes different playstyles possible and keep things fresh. To be honest, I did not expect this much variety in an old game. So, should you play Dune 2 today? If you love the RTS genre and would like to experience where it has started in 1992, you should definitely give it a try. The experience for me was like stepping into a time machine to experience the origins of the RTS genre. I had a good time playing Dune 2, and what was surprising for me, that it has all the details as a modern RTS games. Good variety of units and buildings, great strategy experience, it perfectly scratched that itch what I needed for my RTS game fix. And Dune 2 isn't just a game, it's a piece of gaming history. Its contributions to the RTS genre cannot be overstated. And while it has its share of outdated mechanics, it's still an experience worth having. Whether you are a seasoned RTS fan or a newcomer curious about where it all began, Dune 2 deserves a spot on your gaming list. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you're not subscribed yet, now it is a great time to do so, for more deep dives into classic games. Also, the YouTube algorithm has chosen a video for you, it is on the screen now, check it out. Thank you for being with me here today, and I'll see you in the next Backlog Quest video.